My name's Lisa Kraft Angelos, and I am a Rotarian in Kennebunk, Maine. And we have developed a new initiative called CS3, which stands for Community Strong, Character Strong, Children Strong, brought to you by Rotary, People of Action.
And what is your goal with this new program?
Our goal is, there are three different things. Community Strong is to join all the community leaders together. We all kind of have the same purpose in mind. We want to take care of our children in the community. Character Strong is a program we're trying to get into the school district, which is a curriculum-based character curriculum. And Children Strong is sending our kids to summer camps and buying them new school outfits and having them for Christmas parties and just being part of their lives. And
so how did this all come about? What was the impetus behind starting this whole thing? Is this something that the organization already does, or is this something that you started on your own?
We started this. We've had a Christmas party, an annual Christmas party every year. I went as a guest for about 3 or 4 years before I became a Rotarian, and it always just brought such joy to my heart. Watching the kids, they would get one big, huge bag full of things that they needed, and then they would get one huge bag full of things that they wanted. And it was the looks on their faces. They were so thankful, and so we decided to take a look at what else we could do for some of those children in the community, and we were blown away by some of the thoughts we got from the principals, the counselors, the Parks and Recs, the needs that we have right here in our own community. It's great to do national, international work, but I think it all starts right here in your own backyard. And if every Rotary group in this nation would take care of their own community, it would just be fantastic.
And do you think tonight's event was a good start in that direction?
I think it was a great start.
So Lisa actually invited me because we are touching the same people in our community through our program. So she was always saying, you know, we're all helping these children. Why don't we all get together and help them together to make it a bigger effect? So she said, you know, she's worked with us at COS before, and said, you know, we're trying to send kids to summer camp. We're trying to give them, you know, clothes to wear for the first day of school. You guys are trying to feed them. You know, how can we work together and make all this happen and all help the kids at once and make it a bigger effort?
So that's how it came about. And so what is your program, COS? What is that all about?
Community Outreach Services is it's a 3-pronged program. There's the food pantry, fuel assistance programs, and our special needs programs, which are things like rent and eyeglasses, etc. But we're a 30-plus year old organization, and our needs are only growing in the community. You know, the things that we're asked for are growing and changing, and we're trying to grow with with that same stride.
Is there anything else that people should know about the programs?
I think the biggest thing is that we live in a somewhat affluent area, and it's hard for people to understand that our need is real, and there are kids out there that go home hungry and, you know, without having the same things that everybody else does. I think it's really, you know, sort of rolled over, and it's good that this is coming to the front and people are here, and we want to help, and we want to do whatever we can in our community to make everybody feel equal.
So how could somebody out in the community that want to help, what do they have to do to become involved?
So there's plenty of places where they could get started. There's lots of local organizations. I would say you could start, the Chamber of Commerce actually has a nonprofit section on their site, and a lot of these groups are part of it. You could jump into a Rotary page. Our local Rotaries are Kennebunk and Portside Rotary, and they have access to a lot of those programs too because they work with them one-on-one. I mean, you could email Lisa directly. That would be a great way to start. She knows everybody and everything that's going on. She's a great tool for our community.
Hi, we're here at the Kennebunk Trust Conservation Building, and I'm here with Houston Kraft, and he has this amazing program for children, and it's called
Character Strong.
and so what is that? What is Character Strong?
Well, we believe at Character Strong that the best pathway to a more kind, compassionate world is to teach it. And so kindness is this lovely abstract value that we talk about being important a lot. But the reality is it's more complicated than just, hey, go be kind. Why? Because kindness requires empathy, perspective taking, good listening skills, requires good communication, it requires a growth mindset, it requires resilience to show up and be kind to people who aren't necessarily kind to you in the first place. It requires a level of forgiveness and humility and patience. So it's like we can ask kids to be kind in schools all we want, but if we don't teach them the skills that live underneath it, then we're asking them to do something that I think is harder than it looks. So the work of Character Strong is to equip students with social emotional skills and character traits to make them more successful and ultimately loving in the world. And we do that by providing curriculum to schools and then training educators in the building to not only deliver the program, but also to weave it into their daily pedagogy and into the daily culture of everything that they do.
And how are the teachers responding to this program?
Generally pretty well. I think there's a natural sense in education that there's a lot to do, and there is. The world is, we need a lot of our young people, and I think teachers can quickly feel overwhelmed with that long list of responsibilities. And so at Character Strong, we always say that it's not another thing on the plate, it is the plate. And if we can provide low burden opportunities for them to engage in this work and really cultivate those relationships and teach these things in ways that don't take too much time, but we see a lot of value on the other side, then our experience with teachers is that they're craving this piece. Because if we're just delivering content and not building relationships, it's a recipe for burnout.
So what does this curriculum look like? You just give them a notebook with all lessons plans for 52 weeks or something like that? I mean, what would a lesson plan look like? I mean, what does this curriculum look like that you have for these kids?
Well,
the teachers?
We're environmentally friendly, so it's not a big notebook. It's all digital.
Oh, I'm in the wrong generation. Sorry.
So we try to. It's like minimal to no supplies needed. All the lessons.
Okay.
It's very experiential, very relational. And the curriculum is usually broken up into two parts. There's for every lesson. At the secondary level, they're 30 minutes long. And yeah, the idea is over the course of the year, you deliver them weekly. And they always contain a character component, a real life practical challenge to put them into action, to practice something like forgiveness or humility. And then the second part would be that teaching component of a social emotional skill, whether it's mindfulness or growth mindset, or emotional regulation, or civil discourse. Those types of things get taught alongside character. So the lessons are plug and play enough for any teacher to literally be able to click and start teaching the lesson right as kids walk in. But they're also flexible enough for the teacher who's passionate and wants to make it their own and customize it. So it's not like I have to read out of a book. There's a lot of it that's designed to be more facilitation and more like cultivating meaningful conversation.
And how do you get the parents involved? Like I heard someone saying, well, this is great. We teach the kids, we teach the teachers, but then they go home, and then what happens?
Yeah, a lot of that work can be undone at home. And my empathy statement is many parents, the average family spends 30 minutes or less a day connecting. And on average, 3 minutes of that is like meaningful connection. And so families are busy. That's empathy statement 1. Empathy statement 2 is that not all parents in the previous generation were given the tools of social emotional skills, right? We weren't taught some of these things. Many of them feel new, like true depth, like vulnerability or empathy. Some of those as skills are newer things. And so to ask them to teach those things is a tough ask when maybe they weren't taught them in the first place. Yeah. So we also want to provide tools to families to engage in some of those things at home, whether it's activities or challenges or just simple ideas for people to engage in those conversations that we I think we crave, but we don't. If we're not given the idea on what to talk about or do, then sometimes we get into our routines and we need help breaking those things.
So if you go down to a kindergarten level, really young kids, would one of the lessons be how to give a compliment?
Oh, sure. We do that even at the high school and professional development level.
Oh, do you?
Compliments are harder than they seem, right? Because it's not always just like, you look nice today. Sometimes a real, true, meaningful compliment is about someone's character. So it's like being able to observe someone and be aware of their gifts, to see good in people, to be vulnerable enough to humbly share what you see and how it affects your life, to have the vocabulary to speak more than just like, you look pretty, or like, you're funny. You know, there's a huge range of options that we can say that are gifts to people. So at the elementary level, we might talk about what does like a level 1 compliment look like, and all the way up until we get into high school or beyond, like what does it mean to truly say something of purpose or value to another human being.
And don't you have to have the other part of the compliment is how do you receive a compliment? Because some people get really embarrassed and they'll say a rude remark back or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Kindness is a more complicated skill set than it seems, right? Like,
yeah.
Delivery of a compliment's one thing. The capacity to receive love
is another.
Is a whole other thing. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, how do you see the progression of going from like a kindergartner up to junior high, now junior or middle school, as they call it? I'm dating myself again.
No, they still call it junior high in certain spots.
Oh, do they?
You're
Okay.
good.
Junior high and then high school. You know, how would they look differently? You know, in the teachers working with these kids, because middle school is difficult. That's really challenging. You know.
Yeah, the cool thing about this work is that I think kids and adults, but particularly kids, I think are really craving it, because the average kid can carry, 12 conversations across 5 different social media platforms on their phone. But you ask the average kid to go introduce himself to a stranger and have a 1-minute conversation, and it's like a death sentence.
Yes.
So, which isn't to say they don't want to do it. I think for many of them, they don't have the skills.
Yeah.
And so I think kids are excited about this content. If teachers deliver it with enthusiasm and vulnerability, our experience is that students are really excited to dig into this. So it looks different across all grade levels. You know, all of our stuff is vertically aligned, so it's developmentally appropriate, and we distinguish elementary and secondary a lot so that kids never feel like they're seeing the same stuff. You know, because that's one of the big problems with stuff that goes quote-unquote district-wide, is that kids are like, oh, I did this in elementary school. I'm done with it. I'm stupid. So we have totally different branding, totally different lessons, so that students feel like a continuity, continuity of content, but a totally different experience, so that they never dismiss it as...
They're growing, they're getting better, they're learning more.
That's the idea, yeah.
So what would you like teachers to know? What's the one thing you want teachers to know about this program?
I mean, that this work is, there's a huge movement to teach to the test, and I think it stressed people out, still stresses people out, and it's not what's best for kids. And you can sense it on a national level, even on a global level, that I think we're looking back towards the people side of this work, and that education more than ever isn't a transaction, right? We used to be, in education, teachers used to be the holders of the knowledge, and now with the internet and Wikipedia and Khan Academy, access to information is everywhere, but access to relationships is not.
That's right.
And so that's the work, is how do we in education still provide the content, the academic component, but how do we also intentionally, thoughtfully, effectively build relationships with every student? Because in today's world, the only way we get to truly teach is if we've earned the foundation of the relationship first.
And what would you like to tell the parents? Same thing?
A little bit of the same thing.
A little bit of the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, and to the parents, it's like that, the gap between what we say is important and what's actually important. That at the end of the day, character, smart kids without character is a dangerous combination.
Can you repeat that story? You repeated when you were giving your speech there about
the research.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Richard Weisbord, he asked parents what they would rather their kids be, high-performing, happy, or kind. And most people said happy and kind. And then they asked the kids of those same parents what you think your parents want you to be, high-performing, happy, or kind. And the vast majority of kids said they thought their parents wanted them to be high-performing. So I call it the priority gap, meaning the things that we say are important versus the things that we give our time, our resources, or energy to are different. And if we're ever going to truly make something like kindness or compassion important, well, we better give it our time and energy and attention. And so that's what it looks like. That needs to come through in the way we talk about these things at home. It needs to come through in the way that we talk about these things at schools. It needs to be everywhere, right?
So where is this program already implemented?
We're in a little over 1,000 schools.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
a lot.
All over the world now. We're in South Korea and Japan and
You're
Mexico
kidding.
and Canada.
Oh my goodness.
And all over the United States. So it's growing really quickly. I think there's a big need, which is pretty neat. And yeah, we're K through 12 and continuing to grow. So
Well, I'm glad you're here in Kennebunkport.
of course, this is a home.
Is there anything else you want to say?
No, just keep it up. Keep doing good work.
Thank you, Houston.